Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the fascinating world of seed priming.
Oh, this is a good one.
It is, yeah. It's a technique that can supercharge your crops, especially in those tough to grow areas.
Okay.
Think deserts, mountains, or even your own backyard if you're battling like poor soil.
Right.
We've got research papers and expert insights ready to go, so
Buckle up.
yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's dive in.
It's fascinating how much potential this technique holds.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to give your seeds a head start,
Right.
almost like a pre-game warm-up.
Okay.
Essentially, seed priming involves partially hydrating seeds
Okay.
to activate those key germination processes before they even hit the soil.
I'm already intrigued,
Yeah.
but before we even get into the how-to, paint a picture for me.
Okay.
Why should anyone care about seed priming?
Well, think about the state of our land.
Mm-hmm.
Over a third of the world's land resources are degraded.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a huge chunk.
Hmm.
Intensive farming, deforestation, climate change, it all takes a toll.
Right.
And to combat this, we often turn to chemical fertilizers and pesticides,
Yeah,
which, while effective, have their own downsides.
right. The environmental impact is a concern.
Yeah.
So where does seed priming fit into all of this?
That's where integrated resource management comes in.
Okay.
It's all about combining natural resources
Right?
with smarter use of those agrochemicals.
Okay.
For example, one study
Yeah.
showed that using manure and biofertilizers
Okay.
alongside just half the recommended amount of chemical fertilizers
Okay.
actually boosted wheat yields over a 5-year period.
Wow.
So,
Using less chemical.
yeah, less reliance on chemicals, stronger plants,
Stronger plant.
and potentially even bigger harvests.
Okay, so that's a win-win.
Yeah,
But I'm guessing seed priming isn't just one, simple technique.
right.
What are the different ways to do this pre-game warm-up for seeds?
There are actually quite a few methods, each with its own strengths.
Okay.
The simplest is hydropriming,
Okay.
which is literally just soaking the seeds in water.
Okay.
Then you've got osmopriming,
Osmopriming.
where you use special solutions to carefully control the hydration process.
So it's like giving the seeds a perfectly measured drink instead of just letting them soak it all up.
Exactly. And this could be particularly beneficial for seeds that are prone to damage from overhydration.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What other methods are there?
There's halo priming,
The halo priming. Okay.
which is especially useful if you're dealing with salty soils.
Okay.
By soaking the seeds in salt solutions beforehand,
Right.
you're kind of prepping them to handle those conditions better.
So if you're gardening in a coastal area or dealing with soil that's naturally high in salt,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
could be a game changer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we have some even more targeted approaches.
Okay.
Hormonal priming uses plant hormones to give the seeds an extra boost. It's like a shot of espresso for germination.
I like it.
And then there's biopriming,
Biopriming.
which involves coating the seeds with beneficial microbes.
Okay.
Think of it like giving your seeds a team of tiny helpers right from the start.
So we've got simple soaking,
Right.
carefully controlled hydration,
Yeah.
prepping for salty soils,
Yeah.
giving them a little microbial buddies. Anything else?
There's also matrix priming,
Matrix priming.
where you embed the seeds in a special material
Okay.
to manage water uptake and prevent clumping.
Okay.
And finally, pelleting combines priming with coating
Okay.
to create a little package of goodness for your seeds.
Wow.
Improved handling, added nutrients, even pest protection, all in one.
It's like a whole buffet of seed priming options.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, why does all of this even work?
Right.
What's going on inside the seed during these priming processes?
To understand the why, you have to look at the what.
Okay.
Priming takes the seed through the first few stages of germination before it's even planted.
Okay. Think of it like giving it a sneak peek at what's to come.
So it's almost like a practice run.
Exactly. There are 3 main stages.
Okay.
First, imbibition.
Imbibition.
This is where the seed rapidly soaks up water, like it's been parched in the desert and finally found an oasis.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
Okay.
What happens next?
Then comes activation.
Activation.
The seed springs to life,
Okay.
enzymes get fired up, protein synthesis kicks in, and any DNA damage gets repaired.
Wow.
It's like a cellular boot camp getting the seed ready for action.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what's the final stage?
That's growth and elongation.
Okay.
The first root, called the radicle, emerges,
Radical.
and the seed is officially off to the races.
Okay, that's super cool to visualize.
Yeah.
But what does this all mean in the real world?
Right.
What are the actual benefits that someone would see in their garden or their field
The benefits are truly impressive.
Okay.
You get faster, more uniform germination.
Imagine a whole field of seedlings popping up in sync, like a perfectly choreographed dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
This leads to stronger seedlings with more vigor,
Okay.
meaning they're better equipped to handle whatever challenges come their way.
So not only do they sprout quicker, they're also tougher. I'm liking this already.
And that toughness translates into better establishment,
Okay.
especially in those harsh environments we talked about earlier.
Right.
Plus, there's evidence that seed priming can actually boost your overall yield.
Wait, so you're telling me I can potentially get more produce from my garden just by prepping the seeds beforehand?
It's true.
Wow.
And it's not just about quantity.
Okay.
Prime seeds often show improved stress tolerance.
Okay.
They're more resilient to things like drought, heat, and even salty soil.
Now that's what I call a superpower.
And here's a really cool example.
Yeah.
One study found that priming sesame seeds with mycorrhizal fungi,
Okay.
tiny fungal helpers that team up with plant roots,
Right.
boosted their water use efficiency by 6–10%, even when they were stressed by drought conditions.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
So these prime seeds are basically using water more efficiently,
exactly.
which is a huge win, especially in areas where water is scarce.
And it's not just water.
Okay.
Seed priming can also help with nutrient uptake
Okay.
and minimize fertilizer loss.
Okay.
For example, a study on wheat found that biopriming with a beneficial fungus called Trichoderma harzianum.
Okay, I'm going to need you to break that down for me.
Yeah.
What is Trichoderma harzianum? How does it help?
It's a type of fungus that lives in the soil
Okay.
and forms a mutually beneficial relationship with plants.
Right.
It helps the plants access nutrients more effectively,
Okay.
meaning they need less fertilizer,
Okay.
which is good for the environment and the farmer's wallet.
So it's like a natural fertilizer booster?
You could say that. And by priming the seeds with this fungus,
Right.
you're essentially introducing them to their new best friend right from the start.
Okay, this is all starting to sound like a pretty amazing deal. More yield, less water usage,
Right.
potentially less fertilizer needed. I'm seeing a lot of pluses here.
There are definitely a lot of benefits to consider,
Yeah.
but before you run off and start priming all your seeds,
Okay.
there are a few things to keep in mind.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
What are some of the potential challenges or drawbacks?
Well, for starters, priming does add an extra step to the planting process.
Right.
It requires some time and effort.
Okay.
And for large-scale farmers,
Yeah.
that could mean additional labor costs.
Right. It's always a balance between the effort involved and the potential payoff.
Exactly. And there can also be technical challenges.
Okay.
Some seeds are more sensitive than others,
Right.
and it takes some know-how to
Mhm.
get the priming conditions just right.
I can imagine there's a bit of a learning curve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And storage can be another factor.
Okay.
Prime seeds sometimes have a shorter shelf life than untreated seeds,
Right.
which could be a logistical hurdle.
Okay, so there are some logistical and technical things to consider.
Yeah.
But with all these potential benefits, I'm still really intrigued.
I understand. It's a fascinating field with a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Now, to really appreciate the impact of seed priming,
Yeah.
it's helpful to understand a bit of its history.
Oh, I love a good origin story.
Yeah.
Where did this technique even come from?
It's actually quite ancient.
Really?
Farmers have been using rudimentary forms of seed priming for centuries,
Wow.
long before the science behind it was understood.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What did early seed priming look like?
Well, one of the earliest recorded examples is from ancient Egypt.
Okay, ancient Egypt.
Farmers would soak their seeds in the Nile River before planting,
Oh, wow.
taking advantage of the nutrient-rich water to give their crops a boost.
So they were essentially doing a form of hydropriming,
Exactly.
just on a grander scale.
And in other parts of the world, farmers would bury their seeds in moist sand or wrap them in damp cloths to encourage germination.
So, I mean, are these techniques that were just passed down through generations?
Yeah, based on observation and experience.
It's incredible how much wisdom can be found in traditional farming practices.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the scientific study of seed priming didn't really take off until the mid-20th century.
Okay.
That's when researchers started to unravel the mysteries of germination
Right.
and figure out how priming could be used to manipulate those processes and improve seed performance.
So that's when we went from, hey, this seems to work, to actually understanding the why and how.
Precisely. And that scientific understanding has led to the development of the more sophisticated and targeted priming techniques that we've been discussing today.
It's a fascinating journey from ancient farmers along the Nile to modern science labs.
It is, yeah.
But I'm still curious about the nitty-gritty details.
Okay.
What exactly is happening inside those seeds during priming that leads to all these benefits?
That's a great question. We've talked about how priming leads to faster and more uniform germination,
Right.
stronger seedlings,
Yeah.
and better establishment.
Right.
But let's zoom in and take a closer look at the molecular magic happening inside those tiny seeds.
Okay, I'm ready for my close-up on seed science.
One of the key things that happens during priming is the activation of enzymes.
Enzymes.
Yeah.
Remind me what those are again?
Think of them like tiny biological machines that speed up chemical reactions within the seed.
Okay.
They're essential for breaking down stored food reserves,
Mm-hmm.
creating new proteins, and repairing any damage that might have occurred during storage.
So it's like priming is giving those enzymes a head start.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting them ready to hit the ground running.
And it's not just enzymes that get a boost.
Okay.
Priming also triggers the production of new proteins,
Okay.
which are the building blocks of cells.
Right.
It's like the seed is stocking up on supplies,
Okay.
getting ready for a growth spurt.
So priming is like a pre-game meal for seeds, fueling them up for success.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about DNA repair.
Okay.
Seeds can accumulate damage to their DNA over time,
Right.
especially if they've been stored for a while.
Yeah.
Priming can activate repair mechanisms,
Okay.
ensuring that the seed has a healthy genetic blueprint to work with.
So it's like priming is giving those seeds a spa day, rejuvenating them and prepping them for a fresh start.
I love that. And all of these metabolic changes
Yeah.
translate into the visible benefits we've been discussing.
Okay, let's break those down a bit further.
Okay.
Starting with faster and more uniform germination. Why
Right.
is that so important?
Well, faster germination means those seedlings pop out of the soil more quickly,
Right?
giving them an edge in the race for sunlight, water, and nutrients.
Okay.
And when they emerge uniformly,
Right.
it makes everything easier for the farmer.
How so?
Well, for one, it simplifies things like applying fertilizer and pesticides.
Right.
You can do it at the optimal time for all the plants
All
instead
right.
of having some lagging behind.
Right. Right.
Plus, uniform germination reduces competition between seedlings.
Right.
They all have a more equal chance of accessing resources.
That makes sense. It's like a well-organized classroom where everyone is learning at the same pace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this synchronized growth can lead to a more uniform harvest,
Okay.
which is great for quality and marketability.
So it's a win-win-win. Faster and more uniform germination benefits the farmer, the plants, and ultimately the consumer.
It does.
Yeah.
That brings us to the next big advantage. Improved seedling vigor.
What exactly does that mean?
Seedling vigor is essentially a measure of how healthy and robust the seedlings are.
Okay.
Think of it like this. A vigorous seedling is strong, full of energy, and ready to take on the world.
Got it.
Okay.
And how does priming affect vigor?
Priming gives those seedlings a head start on all those important metabolic processes we talked about.
Okay.
They have more energy reserves,
Right.
more efficient enzymes,
Right.
and healthier DNA. It's like they've been training for a marathon and are ready to hit the ground running.
So they're like little plant athletes.
Exactly. And this enhanced vigor translates into a whole host of benefits.
Oh.
They're better able to withstand environmental stresses like drought, heat, and salty soil.
Okay.
They develop stronger root systems,
Right.
allowing them to access water and nutrients more effectively,
Right.
and they're less vulnerable to diseases and pests.
Wow. It's like priming gives those seedlings a suit of armor, protecting them from the challenges of the outside world.
That's a great way to put it. And all of this contributes to better crop establishment,
Okay.
which is our next big advantage.
Okay. Crop establishment. What does
Yeah.
that mean exactly?
It's the process of those little seedlings successfully transitioning into established plants.
Right.
It's a critical period for any crop,
Okay.
and it can be a time of high mortality,
Okay.
especially in challenging environments.
So it's like the make or break moment for the crop?
Exactly. And priming can significantly improve those odds.
How so?
Remember all those benefits we've been talking about?
Yeah.
The increased vigor,
Yeah.
the stress tolerance,
Right.
the ability to germinate even under less than ideal conditions.
Yeah.
All of that comes into play during establishment.
So it's like priming equips those seedlings with a survival kit, helping them navigate those early challenges and come out on top.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And better crop establishment means that the farmer is more likely to get a good, healthy stand of plants,
Right.
which ultimately leads to...
Increased yield. That's the golden ticket, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And the research shows that seed priming can deliver on that promise.
Okay.
Studies have shown yield increases ranging from 5–15%
Okay.
and sometimes even higher.
That's a pretty impressive return on investment.
Yeah, and it sounds like the benefits go beyond just boosting yield, right?
Right. We've also talked about reduced water use
Yeah,
and improved stress tolerance.
right.
These are huge advantages, especially in a world facing climate change and increasing pressure on our resources.
Absolutely.
Let's dive into those a bit more.
Okay.
Starting with reduced water use. Why is that so important?
Well, in many parts of the world,
Mm,
water is becoming increasingly scarce,
right.
and agriculture is a major water consumer.
Right.
So anything we can do to make agriculture more water efficient
Yeah,
is a huge win,
absolutely. Makes sense. So how does seed priming help with that?
because prime seeds germinate faster
Okay.
and more uniformly.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need as much time to establish their root systems.
Right.
They're essentially more efficient water users right from the start.
So it's like they're getting a head start on building their water-absorbing infrastructure.
Exactly. And then there's the improved stress tolerance.
Okay.
Plants face all sorts of challenges throughout their lives,
Yeah.
from drought and heat to salty soil and pests.
Right.
Priming helps them cope with these stresses by strengthening their natural defense mechanisms.
So it's like giving those plants a tougher skin and a stronger immune system. I'm really starting to see the appeal of this technique.
And here's another example to illustrate that.
Yeah.
Remember that study we discussed about priming sesame seeds with mycorrhizal fungi?
The one that boosted water efficiency even during drought?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a prime example of how priming can enhance a plant's natural resilience.
Okay.
Those mycorrhizal fungi are like tiny superheroes,
Right.
helping the plants access water and nutrients more effectively, even under challenging conditions.
So it's like giving the plant a super-powered root system.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm loving all these superhero analogies.
I'm glad. It helps to visualize the power of these techniques.
Yeah.
And all of this points to seed priming as a valuable tool for sustainable agriculture.
I'm definitely seeing that.
Yeah.
By reducing water use,
Right.
improving stress tolerance, and enhancing nutrient uptake.
Yeah.
Seed priming can help us produce more food with fewer resources and a lighter environmental footprint.
It's a win-win for both farmers and the planet.
Okay, so before we wrap up our kind of deep dive into seed priming,
Okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of this technology.
Okay.
What are some of the most exciting areas of research and development?
One area that's really exciting is the use of nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology.
Yeah.
That sounds futuristic.
It is.
Yeah.
Researchers are exploring ways to use nanoparticles to deliver priming agents,
Okay.
like nutrients or beneficial microbes, directly to the seed.
So we're talking about, instead of just, soaking the seeds in a solution,
Right.
we're talking about targeted delivery, almost like a microscopic injection.
That's a great analogy. It's all about precision and
Yeah.
efficiency.
Okay.
By delivering these priming agents directly to the seed,
Right.
we can ensure that they're absorbed and utilized more effectively.
So that leads to even greater benefits in
That's right.
terms of germination rates,
Yeah.
seedling vigor,
Mhm.
and overall crop performance.
And let's not forget about the potential for personalized priming strategies.
Okay, personalized priming strategies, what does that mean?
Imagine a future where we can analyze the genetic makeup of each seed
Wow.
and develop a customized priming recipe that's tailored to its specific needs and the environmental conditions it will face.
That's mind-blowing. It's like giving each seed its own personalized training plan, optimized for success.
It is.
Yeah.
And that level of customization could revolutionize the way we grow crops.
Okay.
We could create super seedlings that are perfectly adapted to their environments,
Right.
requiring less water, fewer fertilizers, and better able to withstand stresses like drought and heat.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a seed priming revolution.
Yeah, it does.
But with all this talk about, high-tech advancements,
Right.
I'm curious about the role of traditional knowledge and practices.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that farmers have been using rudimentary forms of seed priming for centuries.
Right.
Is there still a place for those traditional methods
Absolutely.
in a world of nanotechnology and personalized priming strategies?
Traditional knowledge is invaluable.
Yeah.
Farmers have been observing and experimenting with seed treatments for generations,
Right.
passing down their wisdom through the ages.
Yeah.
Many of those traditional methods,
Right.
like soaking seeds in water or burying them in moist sand,
Right.
are still effective and relevant today.
Okay.
And they often form the basis for modern scientific research.
So it's a beautiful blend of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes seed priming so fascinating.
Right.
It bridges the gap between traditional practices and modern innovation.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, before we kind of wrap up our deep dive into the world of seed priming,
Okay.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The potential of this technology to address some of the biggest challenges facing agriculture today.
Right.
Talk about climate change,
Right.
resource scarcity, and the need for more sustainable farming practices.
Yeah.
How do you see seed priming fitting into that bigger picture?
I believe seed priming has a crucial role to play in building a more sustainable and resilient food system.
Okay.
By enhancing germination rates, improving seedling vigor,
Right.
and boosting stress tolerance,
Yeah.
priming can help us produce more food
Okay.
with less water,
Right.
fewer fertilizers,
Right.
and a lower environmental impact.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for both farmers and the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, like, mitigating the negative impacts of agriculture.
Right.
It's also about harnessing the power of nature to create a more abundant and thriving world.
Yeah, exactly. Seed priming is all about unlocking the hidden potential of seeds,
Yeah.
helping them to reach their full potential and thrive in even the most challenging environments.
It's a beautiful reminder that nature holds incredible solutions to many of the problems we face.
It does.
And it's up to us to, explore those solutions, innovate, and work in harmony with nature to create a better future.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I believe seed priming is a powerful example of how we can do just that.
Well, on that inspiring note, it's time to kind of wrap up our deep dive into the world of seed priming. I want to thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
You've opened our eyes to a truly fascinating and transformative technology.
It's really cool stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this journey of discovery as much as we have.
Yeah.
We encourage you to explore further, experiment with seed priming in your own gardens or farms, and share your findings with the world. Together, we can unlock the power of seeds to nourish our planet and feed a growing population.
That's a great message.
And for now, we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
So we've covered the history, the science, and the amazing potential of seed priming.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure some listeners are wondering, if this technique is so beneficial, why isn't everyone doing it?
That's a great question, and there are a few key reasons. One is the simple fact that it adds an extra step to the planting process.
Okay.
For farmers working on a large scale,
Right.
that can mean more time, more labor, and ultimately more cost.
Right. It's understandable that farmers have to weigh those practical considerations against the potential benefits.
Exactly. And there can also be technical hurdles.
Okay.
Not all seeds respond to priming in the same way.
Right.
Some are more sensitive than others.
Okay.
And it takes some experimentation to figure out the optimal conditions for each type of seed.
So there's a learning curve involved.
Definitely. And that's where access to good information and training becomes crucial.
Right.
Farmers need to feel confident in their ability to prime seeds effectively before they invest the time and resources.
It's like learning any new skill.
Right.
You need the right guidance and support to master it.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of storage.
Okay.
Primed seeds often have a shorter shelf life than untreated seeds,
Right.
which can be a logistical challenge, especially in areas with limited access to proper storage facilities.
So it's a complex equation with both economic and practical factors to consider.
Yeah.
But with all the potential benefits we've discussed,
Right.
it seems like it would be worth exploring ways to overcome these barriers.
I absolutely agree. The potential of seed priming, especially in the face of climate change and growing pressure on our food systems, is simply too great to ignore.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about the how-to.
Okay.
We've touched on the different types of priming,
Yeah.
but can you walk us through some of the actual techniques involved?
Of course.
Yeah.
Let's start with the most basic method, hydropriming.
Okay.
This involves soaking the seeds in clean water for a specific amount of time.
Right.
The key here is to avoid full germination.
Right.
We just want to activate those early metabolic processes.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, giving the seeds a head start without letting them sprout prematurely.
Precisely. It's like waking them up gently without jolting them out of bed. And the soaking time will vary depending on the type of seed and the desired level of priming.
Okay, what about osmopriming?
Right.
You mentioned using special solutions to control the hydration process.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, osmopriming uses solutions with a lower water potential than the seeds themselves.
Okay.
To put it simply, It's like using a special solution that controls how much water the seed absorbs,
Okay.
so it doesn't get waterlogged.
So it's a more controlled and precise way of hydrating the seeds.
Exactly. And this can be particularly beneficial for seeds that are prone to damage from excessive water uptake.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What kinds of solutions are used for osmopriming?
PEG, which stands for polyethylene glycol,
PEG.
is a common one.
Okay.
It's non-toxic and doesn't interfere with the seed's metabolism.
Okay.
But you can also use salts or sugars for osmopriming.
Interesting. So it's like giving the seeds a carefully measured drink instead of letting them just soak it all up freely.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about halopriming.
Okay, haloprim.
This technique is especially useful for crops that will be grown in saline soils areas with high salt content.
Right, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
So by soaking the seeds in a salt solution beforehand,
right.
you're essentially prepping them to handle those challenging conditions.
Exactly. It's like giving them a taste of what's to come.
Yeah,
So they're not shocked when they're planted in that salty environment.
that's a clever strategy.
Yeah.
What about hormonal priming?
Hormonal priming involves treating the seeds with plant hormones,
Okay.
such as gibberellic acid or cytokinins.
Okay.
These hormones can stimulate germination and enhance seedling vigor.
So it's like giving the seeds a shot of energy.
Exactly. It's like a power-up for germination.
Mm-hmm.
Especially helpful for crops that have dormancy issues or need a little extra boost to get going.
Okay, I'm liking the sound of that.
Yeah.
Now, biopriming sounds particularly fascinating.
Okay.
Tell me more about coating seeds with beneficial microbes.
Biopriming is all about harnessing the power of beneficial bacteria and fungi. By coating the seeds with these microbes,
Right.
you're introducing them directly to the plant's root zone,
Okay.
where they can provide a whole host of benefits.
So it's like giving the plant its own personal army of helpers.
That's a great analogy. These microbes can help the plant access nutrients more effectively,
Okay.
protect it from diseases,
Right.
and even enhance its tolerance to stress.
Wow, it's like a whole ecosystem of support right there on the seed.
Exactly. There's a lot of research going on to identify the most effective microbes for different crops and environments.
That's incredible. Now, you also mentioned matrix priming and pelleting.
Right.
Those techniques sound a bit more involved.
They are, but they can be very effective for certain types of seeds.
Okay.
Matrix priming involves embedding the seeds in a porous material,
Okay.
like vermiculite or sand.
Okay.
This helps control water uptake and prevents the seeds from clumping together.
So it's about creating a comfortable and supportive environment for those tiny seeds.
Exactly. And pelleting combines priming with coating. The seeds are first primed, then coated with a material that can contain additional nutrients, pesticides, or even beneficial microbes.
Wow.
This not only improves seed handling,
Okay.
but also provides extra protection and a boost of nutrients.
So it's like giving the seeds a full makeover with all the bells and whistles.
I like that analogy. It's like a spa day and a shopping spree all in one.
With all these different priming techniques, it sounds like there's a lot to consider when choosing the right one.
You're absolutely right. The best approach will depend on a variety of factors,
Okay.
including the crop species, the environmental conditions, and the farmer's resources.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Definitely not. It takes some research and experimentation to find the optimal approach for each situation.
Right. And I imagine there's a lot of ongoing research in this field.
There is. Scientists are constantly exploring new priming techniques and refining existing ones.
Okay.
It's a dynamic field with a lot of potential for improving agricultural sustainability and food security.
That's exciting. So we've covered the what, the why, and the how of seed priming.
We have.
But let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
What are some of the implications of this technology for agriculture and the environment?
That's a great question. I think seed priming has the potential to play a significant role in addressing some of the major challenges facing agriculture today.
Okay.
For one, it can help us produce more food with fewer resources.
Right.
As we've discussed, priming can improve water use efficiency,
Right.
reduce reliance on chemical fertilizers,
Yeah.
and enhance crop resilience to stress.
Right. We've seen how priming can create these super seedlings
Yeah,
that are better equipped to handle drought, heat, and other environmental challenges.
exactly. And that's particularly important in a world facing climate change.
Right.
Priming can help us adapt to a more variable and unpredictable climate
Yeah.
by making our crops more resilient.
So it's a tool for climate adaptation, helping farmers weather the storms, so to speak.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And beyond, adaptation priming can also contribute to climate mitigation
Okay.
by reducing the need for chemical fertilizers.
Right.
we can lower greenhouse gas emissions
Hmm.
associated with agricultural production.
That's a significant impact. So seed priming isn't just about boosting yields. It's
Right.
about building a more sustainable and resilient food system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe seed priming has the potential to be a game changer for agriculture and the planet.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into seed priming,
Okay.
I want to make sure we leave our listeners with some practical takeaways.
Okay.
If someone's listening to this and thinking, wow, I want to try this,
Right.
what advice would you give them?
That's a great question. My first piece of advice would be do your research.
Yeah.
Learn about the different types of priming, the benefits, and the potential challenges.
Right.
There's a wealth of information available online, in scientific journals, and through agricultural extension services.
Right. It's important to understand the nuances of this technique before diving in headfirst.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And once you've done your research, don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
Start small, maybe try a few different priming methods with a few different crops,
Yeah.
and see what works best for you in your growing conditions.
It's like any new skill practice makes perfect. And who knows, you might just discover the perfect priming recipe for your garden or your farm.
Exactly.
Right.
And remember, seed priming is a relatively simple and low-cost technology that can be easily adapted to different farming systems.
Right.
So whether you're a backyard gardener or a large-scale farmer, there's a good chance that priming can benefit you.
So to our listeners who are now armed with this newfound knowledge, we say go forth and prime.
Experiment, innovate, and share your discoveries with the world.
Because together we can unlock the power of seeds to nourish our planet and feed a growing population.
That's a great message.
But before we get too carried away with our seed priming revolution,
Right.
I have one final question for you. We've talked about the history, the science, and the practical applications of seed priming.
Yeah.
But what about the future?
Okay.
What are some of the most exciting developments on the horizon that could take this technology to the next level?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
The field of seed priming is constantly evolving, with researchers around the world exploring new frontiers.
Okay.
One area that I'm particularly excited about is the use of nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology, that sounds futuristic.
It is. Scientists are working on ways to use nanoparticles
Okay.
to deliver priming agents, things like nutrients, hormones, or even beneficial microbes directly to the seed.
Okay, so
Imagine tiny microscopic robots carrying those beneficial ingredients right to where they're needed most.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like we're taking precision agriculture to a whole new level.
Exactly. And that level of precision could lead to even greater benefits
Okay,
in terms of crop yield, resource efficiency, and environmental sustainability.
I can see why you're excited about that.
Yeah.
Are there any other cutting-edge developments on the horizon?
Another area that's really intriguing is the development of priming techniques that are tailored to specific crops and environmental conditions.
So moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach
Right.
and towards a more personalized priming strategy.
Precisely. Researchers are studying the unique needs of different crops.
Okay.
Things like their germination requirements, their nutrient preferences, and their tolerance to various stresses.
Right.
And they're developing priming techniques that are specifically designed to address those needs.
That's fascinating. It's like we're moving towards a future where we can give each seed the exact boost it needs to thrive in its specific environment.
Exactly. And that level of customization could revolutionize the way we grow crops.
It sounds like the future of seed priming is incredibly bright. And I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear what else is in store. But before we dive into that, let's take a quick break to refresh our minds and prepare for the grand finale of our seed priming saga. We'll be right back with more insights, more inspiration, and more reasons to get excited about the power of seeds. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring this fascinating world of seed priming,
Yeah, from ancient roots.
from its ancient roots to the cutting edge of nanotechnology.
Yeah,
It's been a thrilling exploration,
it has.
and we've only just kind of scratched the surface of what's possible.
Definitely.
Speaking of unlocking potential,
Right.
you mentioned some incredible advancements on the horizon.
Yeah,
Nanotechnology, personalized priming strategies. It sounds like science fiction.
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But these advancements are closer than you might think.
Okay.
Researchers are already making significant strides in these areas.
Right.
For example, scientists are developing nanoparticles that can deliver specific nutrients,
Oh,
hormones, or even beneficial microbes directly to the seed.
So instead of just soaking the seed in a solution,
Right.
we're talking about targeted delivery, almost like a microscopic injection.
That's a great analogy. It's all about precision and efficiency.
Okay.
By delivering these priming agents directly to the seed,
Right.
we can ensure that they're absorbed and utilized more effectively.
So that could lead to even greater benefits in terms of germination rates, seedling vigor, and overall crop performance.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the potential for personalized priming strategies.
Right. Imagine a future where we can analyze the genetic makeup of each seed
Yeah.
and develop a customized priming recipe that's tailored to its specific needs
Right.
and the environmental conditions it will face.
It's incredible.
That's mind-blowing. It's like giving each seed its own personalized training plan, optimized for success.
It is. And that level of customization could revolutionize the way we grow crops. We could create super seedlings that are perfectly adapted to their environments, requiring less water, fewer fertilizers, and better able to withstand stresses like drought and heat.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a seed priming revolution.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, but with all this talk about high-tech advancements,
Right.
I'm curious about the role of traditional knowledge and practices.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that farmers have been using rudimentary forms of seed priming for centuries.
Yeah, for a very long time.
Is there still a place for those traditional methods in a world of nanotechnology and personalized priming strategies?
Absolutely. Traditional knowledge is invaluable.
Okay.
Farmers have been observing and experimenting with seed treatments for generations,
Right.
passing down their wisdom through the ages.
Yeah.
Many of those traditional methods, like soaking seeds in water or burying them in moist sand,
Right.
are still effective and relevant today.
Okay.
And they often form the basis for modern scientific research.
So it's a beautiful blend of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes seed priming so fascinating.
Right.
It bridges the gap between traditional practices and modern innovation.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of seed priming, I want
Okay.
to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The potential of this technology to address some of the biggest challenges facing agriculture today.
Yeah, definitely.
We talked about climate change,
Right.
resource scarcity,
Yeah,
and the need for more sustainable farming practices.
absolutely.
How do you see seed priming fitting into that bigger picture?
I believe seed priming has a crucial role to play in building a more sustainable and resilient food system.
Okay.
By enhancing germination rates, improving seedling vigor, and boosting stress tolerance.
Right.
Priming can help us produce more food with less water, fewer fertilizers, and a lower environmental impact.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for both farmers and the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about mitigating the negative impacts of agriculture. It's also about harnessing the power of nature to create a more abundant and thriving world.
Exactly. Seed priming is all about unlocking the hidden potential of seeds, helping them to reach their full potential and thrive in even the most challenging environments.
It's a beautiful reminder that nature holds incredible solutions to many of the problems we face.
It really is.
And it's up to us to explore those solutions, innovate, and work in harmony with nature to create a better future.
I couldn't agree more. And I believe seed priming is a powerful example of how we can do just that.
Well, on that inspiring note, it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of seed priming.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
You've opened our eyes to a truly fascinating and transformative technology.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this journey of discovery as much as we have.
Yeah.
We encourage you to explore further, experiment with seed priming in your own gardens or farms, and share your findings with the world. Together, we can unlock the power of seeds to nourish our planet and feed a growing population.
That's a great message.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.
That's good.